So hello and welcome people back to our first secondary mission.
Emergency! Emergency! Police headquarters! Please respond. Oh. Oh no. I bet even a pay cut won't save me this time. What have I done? Sorry to let you down, Asuko.
So for now it all seems mostly similar, however, we have a different objective this time around. And that's actually generally how most of these second missions go. It is the same starting point
This is
and
more trouble than I expected.
the same location, but different things you have to do. Some secondary missions will be easier than the first ones, and the other ones will be harder. But generally, once you have completed a level once, it just becomes in general much easier to. It generally just becomes much easier to do these, because you're already familiar with what the location looks like, and as you may have noticed thus far, the locations do repeat. There are quite a lot of them, and your characters will start from different points, and each character will have different exploration abilities or different items, and they will start from different points and have different objectives, and some locations even change as the time goes on. But it was a pretty smart way to, introduce more content within, let's say, the same amount of assets. And they do vary it up enough that it doesn't feel like you're retreading the exact same level over and over.
What's this?
Obtain the inclined control room. So you see, it's already different. Oh, and by the way, in each of these stages, once you are revisiting it for the second time, you see required action for other stages. Once you are revisiting the stage for the second or sometimes for the third time, it also sometimes differs per whether it's a mission 1 or mission 2. They will actually notify you about items that need to be collected in order to get access to new stages. In case you haven't gotten them on your first go. If you have gotten them on your first go, they will just be marked. They'll just be sort of bled out slightly, and we could kind of see inside of him. But no. If you haven't obtained it, it will be in bright white. And if you have obtained it, it's going to be in slightly gray. Now, your characters do have a stamina, and their stamina is it varies, depending on, what character it is. Like, for example, this guy, because he's a policeman, he can actually run for a fairly long time. But for example, let's say an older person or like someone who would for some reason have trouble walking, or I don't know, was a schoolgirl, is not going to be as swift as a policeman. The characters also differ in how many hits they can take. They're all fairly durable. Compared to the Forbidden Siren 1. By the way, you can fall down if you choose to do so, or if you're pushed by the enemy when you're next to a place like that. You will take damage if you fall, or if the distance that you fall is too great. But yeah, our objective is to find a ferry. I can't see one from over here, but maybe if we get up there, like up above here.
What's that? Nearly stuck my nose in where it shouldn't be. You think I would have learned by now?
Mission accomplished.
Of course.
Well, she kind of nonchalantly just squashed that thing. For
No
somebody
concern
who
for death.
Yeah, and here I jumped straight to this mission. I have a system for this, which I will explain in a moment.
What? Tsukusa, is this your... Is this your... Is this... Has nothing changed?
Daddy! Wake up, Daddy!
That's me.
So yeah, now we get the doggo vision.
Never seen you around. Who are you?
Alright, so now we're controlling Shu. Shu's nearly blind. Which is why he has some of the best side-jacking range, but also he has a special ability which allows him to use to actually walk while he's side-jacking somebody. You have to press R3. Usually the best idea is to use your dog, who will follow you around as such. It is some of the most nauseating camera you'll ever see in a video game. Because it is actually on the level of a dog following you.
Yeah.
However, because Tsukasa is very well trained, well, he actually follows you fairly responsibly, you cannot control him in any... Well, actually, no, you may be able to control him, I just never did that. Well, you can tell him to wait, probably, and he also has a very special command. There is a thing that I tried to pick on these shells, but I didn't quite get it. But I'll show myself getting it after we complete this level, in order to also show off a certain very nice feature that this game has. You can actually also walk around with just like, yeah, shoehorn, that is going to help us. You can actually just walk around with your regular vision. However, as Shu, you do not have access to, you know, the third-person vision, which I thought was actually fairly, I thought it was actually fairly nice that they did it that way. That, you know, like, you know, some people would argue that first-person vision is the most accurate to like real life and what have you. But you know, there are also a lot more factors to just walking around and experiencing the world than just seeing it. So like, you can be more aware of your surroundings than you are just through your eyes, or like through bad sight. Oh no, I did actually find it. I guess I show off the feature on one of the later stages. And right here, you have to wait, look through the eyes of somebody else first, because there are people patrolling around this location, and we can't get seen, though. They're actually very generous when it comes to stealth on this mission, because, you know, you are controlling a nearly blind person.
Who can still sight jack?
Well, I mean, he can sight jack better because, like, you know, he can see normally. You know, just like how blind people have very good hearing and can read with their with their fingertips. You know, their other senses are heightened. Yes, we have to use Tsukasa's ability to guard, and thankfully, enemies are not bothered by the presence of dogs. They're kind of completely and utterly oblivious to them. And here is the only place where Resident Evil controls actually play in, because you actually control Shu with tank controls, and it does actually feel like tank controls, because you have a static camera, and you walk forward instead of the direction that you're pressing. And right there, I have missed a certain collectible, which I will collect. Well, I'll show off the feature that I was talking about with that thing, and also how forgiving this game is about recollecting certain items. I will, however, try to collect every single thing that I can in each level on my first go. And no, you're not actually supposed to go there. You're actually supposed to go down that alley. I'll just have to follow the very, very oblivious person. But yeah, this game is very forgiving about collecting stuff. Each level can be replayed as many times as you want, and you don't actually have to complete it on your second attempt in order to still keep the archive items or items needed to access different stages.
too weird. I just can't explain it all. Don't you think so too? Everything that's happening around us. And what about that woman? Do you know her?
My mom kept sending off doves. But none of the doves would ever come back. I have to go to her soon.
Your mom, does she really exist?
You're terrible! So you don't believe me either? You're not going to help me, are
No,
you?
no, it's just that
Oh, and don't worry. This game's story is told very much out of order, so some things may just not really make much sense at first glance. However, this one's told a lot more, say, in order than the first Forbidden Siren was. And I was going to explain my system for, and here, this game actually hides all of the loading screens behind the FMVs, which I found very nice. And yes, you can skip every single cutscene, including those in-engine ones. And you know, because I already know where to go and what to do, I can skip out on a lot of the stuff that I have done in the previous episode. And I can just go straight to the place where I need to be. But what was I saying before I got sidetracked?
I don't know.
We'll probably get back to it eventually. Yeah, I'll still use the guard, even though you can get past this without Tsukasa's help, but it's a lot harder. But yeah, you see, the enemy saw the dog, but he did not react to it at all. Oh yeah, I was saying about how this game is told out of order. Yeah, you get some missions that will happen in the future first, before missions that happen later. And here's something you have to inspect.
this path. That's right. I've been through here before.
And once you have done that, you can actually leave the level immediately. No need to finish it, actually. But yeah, I was gonna explain my system. I will always try to do the earliest mission on the timeline available, instead of like the one that the game suggests for me to do. Because there is very little logical order there anyway.